G'day and welcome back. Recently I asked a friend of mine in Australia called Leyton on his boat Walden to give us an insight into his journey and how he came about to be living on his boat with his partner Amanda. Let's take a look at what Leyton's had to say and his thoughts. I'll see you at the other end.
G'day, my name's Leyton. Just here to share a few details about my life living aboard our Roberts 36-foot monohull for the last 2 years. We bought this boat back in 2020, left Melbourne, came up to Brizzy, and we actually crewed on a friend's boat for a couple of months just to get some experience and introduce my partner into boat life and see how she enjoyed it. We found this boat down in Brisbane and bought it in October 2020. Spent a few months in Moreton Bay there doing a lot of upgrades to the boat and a lot of changes, making it how we liked it before we headed north, and then sailed up to Lizard Island 2021. Had an amazing year. We just sailed the whole year. Came back down to Bundaberg where we left the boat for a few months while went away and did some work for a change, make some money, and then this year jumped back on the boat and sailed up to Airlie Beach, and I've just been hanging out at Airlie Beach the last couple of months with some friends and doing some work in between, and just enjoying boat life. So 5 years ago I'd never even been on a sailboat before. It was all new to me. I actually got into boating by my brother-in-law. He's into, originally from Victoria, so down in Melbourne there's not so much cruising, but a lot of people into club racing and sailboat racing and that, so he actually does laser boat racing and stuff. So one year for Christmas he got me some lessons on just on his little laser boats, and it was fun, a good experience, but that didn't really interest me at all. I wasn't into racing at all. But then later that week, one of his mates had a little catamaran, and he took me out. It was a beautiful day. He took me out of that, and we just started on the bay for a few hours. And that's sort of what gave me the first spark about, this is really cool. And I always thought, you had to be a millionaire to get into yachting, and it was more for the elite. Then after being on this little boat, it just interests me, how much would this boat cost, and to my surprise it was nowhere near as expensive as I thought, just for a basic little cat. So that sparked an interest and did a bit more research, and it was probably actually went down the YouTube hole and found all the different sailing channels about people living aboard and sailing around the world, living this amazing life. Yeah, it began my journey into thinking maybe this is a lifestyle I'd like to try do in the future. From then I pretty much just indulged myself into everything I could learn about sailing and boats, and mainly watched a million YouTube channels, and began to go, I could actually learn something from these channels and get a bit more out of this. So there were channels such as free range sailing and stuff, which I really got into, where I'd watch Troy and Pascal show their life on boats and the maintenance they do and the cooking they do and provisioning, and more in depth of what real boat life is about. And so, but basically I knew I needed to get more boating experience, and actually bought my first boat was a little tinny. I had that for a few months just to learn about even just pulling apart the little outboard engine and putting the boat in and out the water and running around, going fishing in the water. I guess it just gave me that first little bit of confidence being out in the water. And then, started going down to the local sailing club and doing twilight races. This is down in Victoria. Whenever I was available on a Wednesday night or a Saturday, I'd rock down to the sailing club and jump on whoever would take me and go out for a sail for a few hours. And I really didn't learn. It was a great experience, but I really didn't learn that much doing that. I got the basics of sailing, and racing is really good to learn how to trim the sails properly and stuff, but I was such a novice back then. I really had no idea what I was doing. It was just like someone would tell me to pull one sheet, or back then I used to call it a rope, and sit over here and do this, and I'd do all these things not really understanding what I was doing. Still was a great experience, just especially I think the best value I got out of that is just experiencing different boats and different skippers, and everyone has their own little ways of doing things and different methods, and some better than others. Some even just the character of some of the skippers. Some were a pleasure to joy with. Some of them were really serious, and it was more like, you're right, in the military or something like that, being on their boat. But it was actually that enjoyable stuff. And then I spread my wings a little bit more and did some more crewing and did some deliveries up the east coast, and did a delivery from Fiji to New Zealand, which was a really big step for me, just doing some blue water experience. And I knew that wasn't going to be a pleasurable cruise. We did have some weather the first few days and seasickness, so not really fun to get seasick, but that's my first experience getting seasick on a boat. And yeah, I didn't want it to be smooth sailing and motoring the whole time. I wanted it to be things breaking, rough weather, getting along with different personalities, eating on board, sleeping on board. Back then we were doing 3 hours on, 3 hours off, 4 hours on, 4 hours off, so just getting into that whole experience into that routine and sailing at night time and all the rest. So yeah, that was a really valuable experience I had. And then just crewed as much as I could, pretty much. So jumped on another guy's boat and we sailed all around New Zealand for a couple of weeks. Not all around New Zealand, around Auckland and stuff, but that was another great experience. And we had days where it was beautiful calm weather and great surf and paradise, and then 48 hours later it'll be blowing 50, 60 knots and we'll be dragging anchor at 3 in the mornings. And but again, I was there for the experience, not to have a good time. I mean, the good time's just a bonus, but I was there to learn, and definitely learnt more and more along the way. So back in 2019, I was living and working in Melbourne, and saw a little 26-foot sailboat, a little monohull, in Williamstown, close to where I was living, for sale. Yeah, again, I didn't really know much about owning a boat, but bought my first boat and pretty much did my own took out the water and did my own inspection on it. And from all my research, again, I just put myself in the deep end and ended up buying the boat, which ended up to be a great little boat. Actually didn't realise how good a boat it was until I got rid of it. And I think owning that 26-foot boat, I learned more in the first month of owning that boat than I did in the previous 2 or 3 years, like crewing on people's boats. Not that I didn't learn much crewing, but when it's your own boat and you've got to deal with your own issues and actually servicing the engine and repairing the engine and going out and anchoring and sailing solo and sailing with other people, just generally going, it's my new toy, so I went all over the boat and touched up and fixed up whatever I could, making it a nicer boat, and learning about the boat as it went, all the plumbing system, the electrical system. So that was a really great experience, having that. And of course the idea was buy a small boat, because then if I stuff it up and write the boat off, it's not such a big loss, not such a big gamble straight up. And funny enough, we almost did write that boat off. We dragged anchor one night, and a whole list. As with boating, it's never just one simple thing that goes wrong, it's a whole chain of events that happened. And I guess through inexperience, thinking back, I could have done things a lot better. I'm glad that it all happened and really, put me in the deep end, made me learn and what's important. Anchor got stuck around the prop got ripped off. I chopped the anchor off. We were basically just like a floating bathtub floating in some rocks, and then bent the rudder, so we were in a big mess then. But lucky it all came out well, and we lifted tell another tale, and the boat got all fixed up, and a few months later it was like nothing had happened and we're all back into it. I guess you learn through your mistakes, and that was a good learning from that. Further down the line, so 2020 came, and we were planning on, despite COVID, we were planning on just quitting our jobs and moving up to Queensland, buying a boat anyway. And COVID happened, so we just thought, let's just get out as soon as we can. So we got out. I looked at different boats. So we saw the 26-foot boat, and I looked at a whole range of boats on our trip up to Queensland, probably inspecting over 10, 15 boats. Plus I'd looked at, numerous boats online for the last 6 months prior to that. We got to Queensland, and a guy we saw was advertising for crew to do a couple months sailing north. So we thought, unless we find something we really want straight away, let's just jump on this guy's boat. His name's Phil. And that was another great experience. He had a lot of boat experience, but not a lot of sailing experience, and he had just recently bought a 44 foot Roberts. So Amanda and I jumped aboard that, and a few other crew, and again, that was a really good experience, just learning the Queensland waters. Pretty novice about it, even just learning about tides and currents. Yeah, I don't know, so many different things to mention, but had a great experience. Got to that Airlie Beach after being on his boat for a few months, and saw this boat now, Walden, that I'm currently on. 36 foot monohull cutter rig. I'll give you a quick detour around. Here's our galley. It's a center cockpit, so it's got a huge aft cabin at the back here. So we do have guests on here. Sometimes there's a V-berth at the front, and guests sometimes also sleep down here. For the two of us, we find it's the perfect size, and we don't want anything else. And when we have guests on board, it does get a little bit big, close quarters and stuff, but it's very, I don't know, 95% of the time it's just my partner and I, so we're happy with the boat layout, and it's a good old solid boat. It's comfortable to sail, and yeah, it's really nice to live on, so we're quite pleased with it for the time being. But we bought this boat, so we went down to Brisbane and bought this boat in Brisbane. Again, we bought this boat as it's not our forever boat, but in the intention that we'll probably keep it for 5 or 6 years, sail the east coast, maybe further, maybe take it overseas, who knows. We haven't decided exactly what we want to do, but I think the plan is in a few years time, it's not our forever boat, we will sell this and get something a bit bigger and nicer when we can afford it, and but at the same time we're totally happy with this at the moment. Let's go through some other points that Boyd has asked me to cover. Some of my greatest attractions, what drew me to sailing and living aboard, well, I guess it was just the lifestyle. I was just getting a bit sick of, my life was becoming a bit mundane. I love to travel a lot and stuff, but I just got sick of living in suburbia, even in the city, just doing the same things, going out, spending lots of money, but not really feeling that gratified. So the thing I love about boating is, or sailing and living aboard, is we're constantly moving around, going to new places, exploring places that you can't get to by car or four-wheel drive, and I think they're some of the greatest experiences when you get somewhere really remote and it's just you or you and a few friends, and you can stay there as long as you want, you can do whatever you want, surrounded by nature the whole time, and it's a real sense of freedom. I know, in 2020 everyone was going crazy in lockdown, but we've spent weeks in this tiny little space on here, and jump off just for a quick swim here and there, but you never feel like you're really trapped on here. You're always completely content living on here, and that sense of freedom that you can go where you want, do what you want, when you want. Yeah, really great to have. So that's pretty much what drew me to sailing. Greatest fears about buying a boat, living aboard, and we have done on this boat, we have done some sort of blue water sailing. We've gone to outer reef. We actually did that with a rally with a bunch of other boats, so that was a really great learning experience again, and really put us in the deep water. Everyone has fears, but I think since I took my time and slowly and step by step, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and the more you do, the more experience you get, the greater your confidence comes, just by taking one step at a time. So I don't think I have any huge fears, but then there are always the fears of being stuck in a huge storm out in the middle of the sea, or you lose your rigging and you lose your mast when you're in one of those bad circumstances, large seas and heavy winds, or I don't know, I guess the boat hitting something and getting a hole while you're in the middle of the night while you're far from help. They are my biggest fears, but you always learn to one thing about sailing, which I was going to go into later, how do I overcome my fears, I guess, is just always being prepared. I met a salty old sailor a few years ago, or before I bought this boat, and Yeah, he told me there's only 3 things you need to know about sailing, and that's seamanship, seamanship, and seamanship. And it sort of rang a bell, and I was like, what does this mean? And how can this be, all you need to know sort of thing? And so I really looked into it, and yeah, to me, what seamanship is being totally, being prepared for everything and understanding your boat inside out, understanding tools and methods and of what you're going to do in certain scenarios, and when stuff does get really bad, or there are major issues, knowing how to react and what to do, have a plan for everything. In the worst case scenarios, in the middle of the night we're off somewhere, we hit something, there's a huge hole in the water and we have to abandon ship. We have a life raft and we have EPIRBs and we have all the necessary safety gear to deal in those situations. Not that it's a last resort, those things, not that you ever want to get there, but it comes down to that, there are options. So having all those options and being confident in yourself that you know how and when to use all those things, and always looking at the weather, always being prepared for the future. If the weather does change for some unknown reason, or you get caught in squalls, or you're anchored somewhere but it's not going to be safe, you always need a plan for times ahead. All that comes through experience and training. Heaps of knowledge on YouTube out there, heaps of great training courses out there, and just crewing on people's boats and just being out there and on your own boat and making mistakes and going, okay, next time I'll do this better, or I'll have this tool or gear prepared for this event, so I never have to worry about those sort of things. Yeah, so it's just about being prepared and having plans. I think that's a really important asset. How have I found living on the boat? Is it what I expected? I've never looked back. I've just loved it ever since it began. It's just been a non-stop adventure from day one. You never know what tomorrow holds, and always meeting new people, going to new places, even going to old places, and it's completely different, be completely different weather, or we'll see something that I hadn't seen before. Like just before, I just stuck my head out to wave to the neighbour, and a huge dugong just swam past, and I hadn't seen one that close up in these murky waters here at Airlie Beach. And that was just when I got out of bed. So every day is just full of surprises. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's what I love about sailing. I guess with that, there's a lot of YouTube channels which glamorize sailing and make it look like it's all just relaxing on beaches and drinking beer and champagne, and I'd say that's probably about 5 to 10% of it. A lot of it is actually really hard work. I think it takes a certain sort of person, not so much the fitness involved, but just persistence to, when you have problems, and which is every day, stuff is always breaking. You'll fix something and 2 other things break, or while you're fixing something you break 2 other things. It's just, I don't know why it's King Neptune off the sea. It should be Murphy's Law, because everything that will go wrong does go wrong repeatedly, and it's just a matter of always having the ability to tackle problems, and if you don't know how to fix it, learn how to fix it. Just MacGyvering whatever you can, and do things right when you can. If you're going to fix something, do it right, but at the same time, a lot of times you just got to make do with whatever you have. It takes a sort of person to do that. And also just the fact that everything on a boat twice as hard and takes 3 times as long, basically. Even getting up and making breakfast, boiling the kettle on gas stove, and then cooking toast in the grill, like all basic sort of stuff. And we don't mind doing it. Even that takes 4 times longer on a boat than it would on land, just because you just don't have the conveniences on our boat anyway of a toaster and I'm just using that as an example of how some things can take a lot longer. You're constantly learning and fixing a thing, whether it be electrical, about mechanical with the motor, plumbing, repairing the dinghy, cleaning the fridge weekly, making sure the anchor locker and the anchor windlass is running properly, checking all your safety gear and is functioning, changing over stuff that's been used for a while, making sure, this goes on, there's millions of stuff to look at, but just being on top of everything all the time does take a lot of effort and work, which I enjoy, but it is something that I think can be a bit of a surprise to some people, how much work is involved. Just be prepared. It's not lying back in a hammock all day, every day. It's actually a lot of hard work. But with hard work comes great rewards and makes everything even more rewarding. So I think it's well worth it and wouldn't change anything. And what advice I'd give to anyone looking to get into sailing or start sailing? I think my only advice is just I probably wouldn't do anything different from what I did. I think just small, slow steps. Even though I probably would have just bought a boat sooner and just done it sooner. The sooner you put yourself in the deep end, I think you need to do the small steps to get the experience and get your know-how. Unless you just put yourself in the deep end, you're not going to learn. So you really need to force yourself to get out there, start sailing with other people as much as possible. Start researching. I've got a whole library of books I bought when I first got into sailing, how to sail, diesel engine and mechanical, electrical, just any information you can find and what you can do. Just indulge yourself and learn as much as you can while you can, because when it's too late, it's too late, and you're just going to be pulling your hair out and putting yourself in danger if you leave it too long. But yeah, I'd say get into boating, buy a boat and learn as much as you can. And yeah, I think just put yourself in the deep end, but things take time, and first you will make mistakes. That's about learning. I think when we bought this boat, or even our first boat, if we went a few days without stuffing something up or making any mistakes, we thought we were doing pretty good. Then after a while, if we go a few weeks without doing anything majorly wrong, we thought we were doing pretty good. And when we got to, if nothing went wrong for a few months, we knew we were definitely doing something right. But things are always still happening. But gain so much experience, which you can't even really teach. You just gotta try things. Every boat's different, so just get involved. Don't really have too much else to say. It's a lifestyle me and my partner really enjoy. We hope to do it for as long as we possibly can. Yeah, hope to see you out there and enjoying life. So that's what it's all about. All right, thanks a lot. Catch you later.
So there you go. That's Leyton's thoughts and Leyton's journey. A little bit of warts and all in there, and quite obviously Leyton's been very busy doing a lot of maintenance and upkeep on his boat. Not always the case, but different horses for different courses. So I hope that's been enjoyable. If you've got any questions or queries, reach out, drop me a message, subscribe to stay in tune with what's going on in the world of Learn to Live Aboard. Hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the water soon. Cheers now.